This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. We're pleased to be on the phone with New York Times bestselling book author William Forstchen. He is a history professor and faculty fellow at Montreat College in Montreat, North Carolina. He has written over 40 books, including several he co-authored with former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. His latest is entitled Valley Forge. It's a novel, although the events portrayed in the winter of 1777 are historically accurate. Congratulations on the new book, William.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Valley Forge is your second book about the American Revolution. What is it about this period in history that grabbed your attention?
Newt and I have written seven books together now. And when we first started thinking about collaborating years ago, in fact, the Revolution was the first thing we put on the plate, but then the outline got sidelined because we went into the Civil War and other topics. About 2 years back, the conversation came up as we were approaching the 2010 election that we just had a gut feeling that by about this time in our great American epic, the issue of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the memory of the Revolution was really going to be resonating again in our culture. And it was time to put out a good, readable series of novels about. The first one we did was The Tri-Men Souls, which is about Washington's crossing of the Delaware, and then the incredible suffering endured at Valley Forge in the book that just was released within the last week.
Does any of that American spirit still exist today, in your opinion?
Absolutely, yes. Talk to anybody who has a son or a husband, a brother, a friend who is now serving in Afghanistan. Only moments before you and I started to talk, I received word that the son of one of my best friends was severely injured over there a couple days ago by a suicide bomber. Teach college kids. I'm very, very optimistic about this current generation. In fact, I tell this current generation, chances are you are going to be the next greatest generation, like your grandfathers were back in World War II. America's facing a number of crises. We haven't lost the spirit. We're going to come through.
The subtitle of your book is George Washington and the Crucible of Victory. What was it about that specific winter that made it so important to the success of the Revolution, and why the Crucible of Victory?
Crucible of Victory was actually our first working title. Crucible, as we know, is where metal is forged in. The American armies had suffered an unrelenting series of defeats across the previous 2 years of the Revolution. Morale had collapsed. When Washington and his battered survivors arrived at Valley Forge after losing the nation's capital, Philadelphia, to the British, they were confronted with an open plain where Congress had failed to provide any equipment, food, or anything. These men, you go to Valley Forge today, it's a nice-looking park. Imagine a muddy, stinking field where you had to build your own shelters in a driving storm, and your ration might be a couple of pieces of bread a day, literally. Close to a quarter of the men died. At least another quarter of them deserted. But out of that came a new spirit, a new forging of a new army that the following summer at the Battle of Monmouth would meet the best that the British could throw at them and defeated them and pushed them back into New York. It was the great turning point of the Revolution.
In your research for the book, was there any information you discovered that surprised you?
Both Newt and I are PhDs. We both have degrees in history. I specialize in military history. I think, speaking for myself, it was the unrelenting grimness of what I was reading that started to get to me while we were working on the book. But to counterpoint that, the enduring belief by George Washington and so many others that this is a price worth paying for freedom, that these are the times that try men's souls. And I just recently wrote in a blog that I wish every citizen, when they stepped into a voting booth, would first stand out in the freezing cold barefoot and half naked for a couple of hours, then read the Declaration, then read the Constitution, then look at photographs from the Civil War and from the beaches of Iwo Jima and D-Day, and think about our young men and women overseas right now, and think about all of that before you go in and pull the voting lever, knowing that the men who endured Valley Forge were willing to give their lives for you to have that right to vote.
School children learn about Valley Forge and the heroism it took for Washington and his soldiers to endure that awful winter. But how close did we come to losing the war, and what made the difference?
Oh, we came within a hair's breadth many times. Newt openly says, in fact, we discuss this often, that there were so many odds stacked against us that our victory in the revolution is proof of a God-inspired and God-led nation. That it was almost like divine intervention at times, and a series of events that transcend coincidence. We were going up against the greatest empire in the world, against the greatest armies in the world. Who were we to think that we could stand up against it? But we endured 8 years, and we won.
As you mentioned, you're a professor of military history. Is there anything we might keep in mind from the lessons of Valley Forge and the American Revolution?
It's that enduring American spirit, first and foremost, the loyalty to comrades that we hear about every day. I think the most important message, though, is not necessarily what our military can learn, but what we as civilians must continue to learn. That our men and women in uniform deserve our utmost respect, our thanks, and our prayers every single day, because they represent, going back 10, 12 generations now, the GIs of World War II, the doughboys of World War I, the Billy Yank and Johnny Reb of the Civil War, all the way back to our revolution. Our military today is a living embodiment of that. We owe them our eternal gratitude and our everlasting support.
And finally, if our viewers would like to learn a little bit more about your background and your literary works, how can they do that?
Well, I think one of the best bets is to go to newt.org to look up our books. And I know this is not a question you put out there. I have to emphasize something, because I get asked this a lot. Newt is a genuine, real co-author. This is not some vanity thing that you often see where a famous person's name is splattered across a book cover and then you see with. And you know that the with wrote 99% of it. Newt is engaged in this process from beginning to end. And I'm proud to be able to say he's my friend, and he's also a genuine, real co-author.
Not a ghostwriter, right?
No, I'm not his ghostwriter at all. We work together as a team. Steve Hanser, who's known Newt for 40-odd years, helps out with technical information and editing. This is a team effort, and I'm proud to be part of that team.
Congratulations again. The name of the book, Valley Forge. It's available at Amazon.com and fine bookstores everywhere. William Forstchen, thanks so much and good luck to you.
God bless you. Have a great day, and God bless America.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.